Namaste. Welcome to Vishwa Yoga. My name is Vishwa. In this video, I will talk about the left hand versus right hand path practices of Tantric Hatha Yoga. If you have watched my previous videos, I have covered 4 progressive stages of Tantric Hatha Yoga. I also mentioned that each stage has different levels and variations, either using left hand or right hand path approach. In general, most people commonly use right hand path practices. So it is important to share the left hand path practices as well. As you know, left hand path practices are primarily related to unorthodox practices. Here, in the context of Hatha Yoga, I primarily refer to sexual energy, bodily fluids, and intercourse practices. To keep it simple, let me refer all of them to as sexual practices connected to Hatha Yoga mudras and kriyas. I must mention that selected practices are also done by celibates to control sexual energy except for intercourse. So if you are a worldly person, then these practices can enhance your sexual health, intimacy, and pleasure. Once you learn these techniques, either you are a male or female, you will look back on the ordinary monkey sex and wonder, why did you not know them before? Some people can also have spiritual experiences, but for most of the people, it is for heightened pleasure, healing, bonding, and deeper energetic experiences without draining vital energy. But before I go further, let me first give you a contrast and perspective for better understanding, for connecting the dots. I assume you have already watched my video on Tantra. If not, please do so. In that, you will also understand that yoga acts like a bridge between Vedic and Tantric systems. If you are curious to know the difference between Vedic and Tantric system, I have a video on that too. So in general, most of the socially accepted right hand path practices of Tantra are accepted in Vedic system. So unless you have studied or know its root or subject, you may not be able to decipher the source. But since the Vedic level is more acceptable with reverence, the majority of the right hand path practices of Tantra are also taught under Vedic umbrella. On the other hand, the moment any unorthodox left hand path practices such as sexual practices is mentioned, it is immediately referred to as Tantric. And unfortunately, today the word Tantra has become synonymous with sexual practices, like yoga has become synonymous with physical or asana practices, especially in the West. But in reality, there is a basic difference between Vedic versus Tantric approaches, and I will quickly summarize here one more time in the context of yoga. In the Vedic approach, yoga practice focuses on the chitta or mind, which controls all our senses, and through these senses we connect to the material world. By definition, yoga means union, but in this classical approach, yoga practice is all about viyoga or separation, disconnecting from senses and the outer world or prakriti, rather turning inward towards the world of pure consciousness, and that is Purusha, leading towards Shiva for liberation. In the Tantric approach, the yoga practice focuses on the prana or energy or Shakti, using the body, breath, and all the senses to experience everything, including pleasure or bhoga, with full awareness, and then gradually moving beyond for mukti or liberation. Here, Shakti leads us on an inward journey to Shiva. So the final destination for both approaches is the same, but have two different routes to get there. One directly focuses on psychology or the mind first, and the other one focuses on physiology or energy first. Most religions today suppress sex, but when it comes to Tantra, it neither suppresses or avoids or denies, but embraces everything as an expression or manifestation of a divinity. We all know through sex and its potent energy, each of us came in this world or on this planet and in this body. And sex is one of our 4 basic needs. Thus, sex has both physiology and psychology. So the final goal of tantric practices is to use this potent energy to awaken this Kundalini Shakti starting from the root or Muladhara chakra, moving along the spine to the highest chakra or to the ultimate source. Many people are unaware of the fact that in Tantric Hatha Yoga text, there are several verses on sexual practices, but it is hardly talked about in the yoga classes due to obvious reasons. Many yoga teachers or students who come from orthodox background or never attempted those practices due to their conditioning or training avoid even talking or mentioning about it. Some well-known yoga masters have intentionally omitted or skipped these verses, saying it is of no use. But the truth is, even if you can do these sexual practices at a beginner's level for some time, it will change your sexual life and experience forever. Now let me give you a quick reference to these practices first, for their authenticity. If you will read any Tantric Hatha Yoga text, then turn to the chapter of mudras. For example, chapter 3 of Hatha Yoga Pradipika and Gharanya Samhita, and the chapter 4 of Shiva Samhita, chapter 2 of Hatha Ratnavali, and so on in other texts. The majority of Hatha Yoga mudras are part of right hand path practices such as Mahamudra, Mahaveda, Shambhavi Mudra, etc. However, a few mudras such as Vajroli, Sahajoli, and Amaroli are part of left hand path practices. A variation of Vajroli known as Vajroni is part of Gharanya Samhita and can be practiced by even celibates to control their sexual energy. In popular yoga classes today, very few practitioners, teachers, or students include mudras and kriya in their practice. And if they do, Vajroli or Sahajoli is rarely or never opted for. Though many practitioners ignore these mudras but do know that they have been described in not just 1 or 2, but more than 20 verses in each of the Tantric Hatha Yoga texts. But it is also true that these texts hide the details about their progressive steps. As per Tantric tradition, left-hand path practices remain coded. Tantra is also known as Gupta Vidya or concealed knowledge. For example, worshipping lotus flower in a certain context means worshipping yoni or vagina. So only CS students are expected to be taught by a qualified teacher directly so that it is passed down correctly. So if you are just reading from the book, you may not get the real knowledge or the practice. As per the text, Shatkarma Sangraha, Vajroli Mudra includes 7 practices. Those 7 practices are available in Hatha Yoga text, but not explicitly explained. But these practices can be mapped into 4 major stages as per the level of the student. However, advanced practices are only for rare ones. Keeping safety in mind, most people can benefit from even beginner or intermediate level practices. To further connect the dots, sexual practices are also mentioned in Laya Yoga and many other tantric texts with different names. The highest goal of each of them is to activate the Kundalini Shakti. For example, a Tamil text on Shaiva Tantra mention it as Paryanga Yoga, means cot or bed yoga. In Shakta tradition, it is part of the famous Panchamakara or 5M practice. It is called Mathuna or sexual union or intercourse, popularly referred to as tantric sex in the West. Panchamakara practice prescribes Vajroli for men, Sahajoli for women, and Amroli is for both, plus Vajroni for celibates. But to practice Mathuna, you must know Vajroli or Sahajoli first. That's the foundation. Mathuna practice includes many other modalities and techniques, and a serious set of protocols and rituals, including mantra japa and mantra yoga practices, which is not for everyone. However, everyone can benefit from some of the tools and techniques which I teach in Tantra workshop. Many of these techniques are borrowed directly from all these sources I'm talking about and been put together in progressive order with modern approach for easier access. In Tantra world, the popular right-hand path practices are also known as white Tantra, and the left-hand path sexual practices are known or referred as red Tantra, especially in the West. Many people directly want to jump into red Tantra, but please know that these white Tantra practices are the foundation to progress easily and smoothly on the path of red Tantra. So this was a short introduction to the left hand versus the right hand path practices of Tantric Hatha Yoga. Hope this information was useful for you. Thank you very much for watching this video and have a wonderful day. Namaste. Thank you so much for listening. If you like the information, please subscribe, like and share so that everyone else can also enjoy this.